Roland Marin. Where are you, Roland?
I am actually in D.C., but headed to New York time. I got a conversation today, an interview I'm doing with the First Lady of New York at Gracie Mansion. So looking forward to that. Also, Tom, got to give a shout-out. I was in San Antonio Monday for the MLK Day March. Unbelievable. You told me about that before. Man, it was stunning. The largest, of course, MLK March in the country. A stunning turnout, so I enjoyed that.
I know you did.
And
it's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, my God, it was amazing. It's amazing. I got to go back next year. And so I'm speaking at Georgia State tomorrow, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga on Friday. And, you know, Tom, a lot of people are also boycotting. You know, you have Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, Maxine Waters, John Lewis, and others who are boycotting Trump's State of the Union. Well, I'm going to do an event at Shallow Baptist Church on the same night at the same time called The Real State of Our Union.
Wow.
I have more details for that. We're going to live stream it across all platforms. So I'll tell you more about that later. So, you know, we get to do our own thing. So speaking of doing our own thing, you got a president who don't really like the Congressional Black Caucus. In the meeting last week, he basically blew them off, saying they were essentially irrelevant. Hey, Donald, they're the largest caucus on the Democratic side. You might not want to ignore those votes. They were discussing, of course, DACA, what to do with folks who are born in America but who are undocumented. And that was a story out of Michigan that is stunning. A man who basically he's sent out of the country, leaving his family here. He's only known America. Joining us right now is Rochelle Riley, Detroit Free President. Rochelle, you wrote about this story that it just shows how callous this policy is.
Well, my colleague Neeraj Warku uncovered this story. This is a guy who was brought to this country by someone undocumented when he was 10 years old, has lived a stellar life for 3 decades, paid his taxes, raised his children, never had a parking ticket. But because he's too old for DACA, which is still in jeopardy, they decided that he needed to be deported. So they literally snatched him from his wife and 2 children and put him on a plane back to Mexico, a country that is not his home, away from his family. And unless this can be reversed, he won't have a chance to come back for 10 years.
And there were cameras there as well recording this emotional situation at the airport.
This was all captured live. There were groups there who have been fighting and helping him fight. He has spent almost $125,000 over his life in America. That's about $340 a month, all the time trying to gain his citizenship. His wife and children are citizens. And all of these groups who have been fighting to save him, who begged ICE not to take him, they were all ignored. And what I wrote in my column is that this is not a deportation. This is a prison sentence to take this man from his family for possibly 10 years, leave them without a breadwinner. So, I mean, this policy, this sort of the madness of King Trump continues to destroy what is really the most basic American value, and that's tearing families apart.
Now, let's be clear. We also had massive deportation that took place under President Barack Obama as well. But what you're finding here is when you have ICE literally getting with people like managers at Motel 6, and they're turning people in. They're going into 7-Elevens and snatching people from behind counters as well. I mean, this is a policy that's on steroids.
And here's the other difference. Under President Barack Obama's administration, there were exceptions. You didn't just paint a broad, bigoted brush against everybody of color. This guy has had orders of removal before, and he received stays. He did everything the right way. Because he's a family man, because he was fighting to stay with his family, was working, was paying his taxes, he got stays. Well, you know, President Obama is no longer there. President Trump says no, so they refused the stay. So he had reprieves to not be able to leave. He wasn't like not trying to do it, and he wasn't under the radar. He was trying to stay.
This also affects us. Just last night, a Haitian activist was snatched and put on a plane, deported as well. There are people who are listening to us right now who might be thinking, oh, this is a Mexican thing, an El Salvadorian thing. But the reality is there are people of color right now who I know personally from Bermuda from Haiti, from Caribbean nations, the West Indies, from African nations who are scared to death as a result of what ICE is doing and what may happen with DACA.
I think there are two things that we need to remember. All of these people of color, whether you're black, brown, or yellow, well, not yellow because Trump likes Asians and Norwegians, but if you're black or brown, he has decided that he is after you, and this is not the America that we know.
Rochelle, can you also talk about the age situation? Because this man had been in the country for 30 years, right? And and he was close to the age, but there is an age cap in which people have to leave after a certain age, right?
There's going to be a whole new category, too old for DACA. He misses the deadline to be included in DACA, so he's too old for DACA, and he is literally too young for them to care about. So because he's almost 40, he right now has no recourse under the policies that the Trump administration and the GOP want to adopt or have adopted until someone turns it around.
40 is the cap.
Of course, Tom, Democrats are embroiled in this debate on Capitol Hill right now when it comes to a continuing resolution when it comes to government spending. And many people, and I've said this as well, Rochelle, Democrats should say, we ain't voting for nothing unless there's a clean DACA bill. Because if they choose to compromise on this, that's going to be a huge problem from them when they are winning special elections across the country, and when Republicans right now are scared to death, believing that Democrats are going to take over the House and potentially the Senate because of this potential Democratic wave that's about to come down across the country in November. And
there's also money in there about the wall, and that's what seems to be the greatest concern from the Oval Office.
If Donald Trump stopped trying to spend $18 billion on a wall and spent that $18 billion on children, we wouldn't have half the problems that are being debated now. But Roland is right. If the Democratic Party, which has been very dysfunctional since they went into a coma after the November 16 election, does not literally take a stand, a hard stand for DACA, harder than they did with health care, harder than they did with tax reform, if they let this administration and the GOP continue to attack children, not handle the CHIP program, not make sure they have health care, sending parents back to other countries without their children, this will halt the momentum that they right now have going so much that the governor of Florida is warning about it.
Mm-hmm. And Tom, the Congressional Black Caucus, they are taking a hard stand when it comes to the visa lottery program because they know that's where most people, most Africans as well as Haitians have been able to come into the country. And so they've made it clear to Democrats, don't touch this, as well as the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. If I'm Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer, you might not want to kick off the Black and Hispanic Caucus because you're going to need those votes come November.
Tell them.
Rochelle Riley?
Rochelle, when is the book coming out? To give us the title of your book.
The book comes out, The Burden, African Americans and the Enduring Impact of Slavery, February 5th.
All right.
All right.
Did you see the media shower?
Follow me on Twitter, @Rochelle Riley, to get updates.
Did you see the media shower, Rochelle Riley, there in Detroit?
I don't watch media showers. When I see stuff coming, I hide. It is not a solar eclipse, Tom. I did not want to see it.
Look at you, Black Lightning, huh?
Whatever they want to call it. I was under a bed.
Rochelle Riley, Detroit Free Press.